Good afternoon, Stella here, Health and Wellness Life Coach. Welcome into Health and Wellness Sunday. I am filming today out of Just Moved Athletic Club in South Florida, in South Lakeland on South Florida Avenue. Anyway, my channel is going to be called Health and Wellness Sundays. And anyway, I did get a question from last week's video. I was asked if I'd ever heard of tonsil stones, and no, I had not ever heard of tonsil stones. So I went ahead and I looked into it, and it's very interesting. You've got cryptic tonsils, something I never knew. Anyway, the tonsillar crypts are pockets or folds that occur naturally in your tonsils. And an adult has an average of 10 to 20 crypts in their tonsils. The tonsil crypts are usually small and debris-free. You can tell that I'm an older person having to look over the top of my glasses. Anyway, the crypts in the tonsils are normal. And however, they can accumulate food, mucus, and other debris, which can lead to the formation of tonsil stones, and they're called tonsil lymphs. And the symptoms is bad breath, halitosis, feeling of something stuck in your throat, and chronic sore throats, and finding foul-smelling cheese-like clumps in your mouth. The crypts have low levels of oxygen, making the environment susceptible to bacteria that do not need oxygen. When a mixture of the bacteria starts to accumulate, it is possible for an infection to occur. The infection can cause inflammation, referred to as chronic caseous. And the caseous refers to a cheese-like formation in the tonsillar crypt. The accumulated caseous does not dissipate, it calcifies and forms a stone. They can be large enough to protrude from the crypt at about a half a centimeter, which is about 0.2 of an inches, which is very, very small. The tonsils are naturally wrinkly, some more than others. They can accumulate other debris in these holes, including pus. That's a nice thought. And in these holes, the bacteria that produces volatile sulfur compounds and creates bad breath. Of all the bad breath in the world, out of the entire population, only about 3% of these cryptic tonsils account for bad breath. The majority of the bad breath is accounted for is from bad oral hygiene when people have it. That is the majority, but there are other factors out there, such as medications that you're taking or your diet, what you're eating and how you're eating can contribute to bad breath. Nice to know, huh? Anyway, the bad oral hygiene is when you don't take care, you don't floss, you don't brush, you don't gargle. You need to do all these things in order to prevent bad breath and recession of your gums and cavities, etc., etc., etc. You know, you don't want your teeth falling out. Anyway, it's generally not harmful to your health, but often looks similar to strep throat. There are treatments depending on the severity, and you can have the little stones removed by I'm going to attempt to pronounce this. It's sort of a tongue twister, no pun intended. Otolaryngologist. Otolaryngologist. It's a doctor that specializes in the throat larynx. Anyway, you can gargle with salt water, saline, but never attempt to remove these stones yourself, because you can drive them deeper and into the tissue, and it can cause you more issues. Another treatment is a carbon dioxide laser cryptolysis. What they do with that laser is they peel your tonsils like an onion, and expose the drips. And that sounds a little extreme to me. The other thing that's extreme is you can have your tonsils removed, but there are risks involved in that. And if that's the way you want to go, if you're one of these that has this chronic problem, I think I would sit down and discuss the risk and see if it would be worth it with my doctor before I would have my tonsils removed. The other thing that I found extremely interesting while researching the tonsils was people that have had tonsillectomies and had their tonsils removed. If a little bit of the tissue had been left behind, the tonsils can regenerate themselves, not to the full size they were before, but they can regenerate themselves from their stem cells that are left there behind. And so you still have those lymph nodes for protection. I thought that was extremely interesting because the only organ in the body that I was aware of that could really regenerate itself was the liver. So that was a new one on me. Anyway, I have to tell you, I spent a considerable amount of time looking at my tonsils, trying to find my crypts in the mirror. Even got a magnifying glass. So anyway, the things we do. Well, I want to move on to the subject that address today. I wanted to address fish oil supplements. The fish oil supplements have the DHA that our bodies require. Our brain is about 60% fat, and we need this fat, this DHA in our brain for optimal function. And the retina in our eyes can be 30 to 60% fat, and we need the DHA for the eye health too. The cells, the membranes, nerve functions, your nerves are wrapped in fat, like a conduit. The anti-inflammatory, your immune function. The reason I'm bringing this up is because recently I received from a report, and it was put out publicized by NPR, if you're familiar with National Press Radio. And I was already aware of the pollutants in the oceans and everything, but I was not aware of plastics. And then when I started doing some research, there's article after article after article of pesticides and heavy metals and mercury in our oceans, and how it's contaminating the fish, and how it's in the muscles of the meat that you're eating and consuming. Now, our fish oil capsules, the supplements that you buy, they are not tested for these contaminants at all. They're extracted and produced and put on the shelf, and you buy them. So I'm going to read this to you, and it's about microplastics, and they have invaded the deep ocean and the food chain. The largest habitat for life on Earth is the deep ocean. It's home to everything from jellyfish to giant bluefin tuna. But the deep ocean is being invaded by tiny pieces of plastic that people thought was mostly floating on the surface in amounts they never imagined. Very few people have looked for microplastic concentration at mid to deep ocean depths, but there's a place along the California coast where it's relatively easy. The edge of the continent takes a steep dive into the ocean at Monterey Bay. Whales and white sharks swim these depths just a few miles offshore. The Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute perches on the shoreline. At the Monterey Research Institute dock, you will see one of the most sophisticated tools for doing that, a multi-million-dollar machine called the Ventana, sitting on the deck of a research vessel called the Rachel Carson. It's a massive underwater robot which collaborate, and the Monterey Bay Aquarium collaborates with the Research Institute. Well, the robotic arms on this robot have a lot of sensors and machinery, lights, video cameras. The team they created, that the Research Center Institute created, had been sending the Ventana up to about 3,000 feet deep into the bay in search of plastic. The deep ocean is the largest ecosystem on the planet. And we don't know anything about the plastics in the ocean. Scientists do know about plastic floating on the surface and have tried to measure how much there is. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is just one of the many giant eddies in the ocean where enormous amounts of plastic and waste collects. But beneath the surface, not much. So the Ventana has made several dives to collect water samples at different depths. Technicians filtered the water looking for microplastics, the tiny fragments and fibers you can barely see. What they found was actually pretty surprising. They found most of the plastic is below the surface of the ocean, more than is in the giant floating patches. Also, to their surprise, they found that submerged microplastics are widely distributed from the surface to thousands of feet deep. Moreover, the farther from the shore they sampled, the more microplastics they found. That suggests it's not just washing off the California coast, it's coming from all over the world. They think the California current is actually carrying some of the microplastic debris from the North Pacific Ocean, kind of like trash washing down off a landfill, but this is actually in the ocean. And that trash gets eaten. In the deep ocean, like giant feeding trough. It's filled with animals, and they're not only moving up and down in the water columns every day, forming the biggest migration on the planet, but they're also feasting on one another. It's the food chain. For example, the deep ocean is filled with sea creatures like the larvicins. That's a tiny organism that filter tiny organisms out of the water. They're about the size of a tadpole, but they are called giant larvicins because they build a yard-wide bubble of mucus around themselves, called a snot house. Anyway, the mucus, the snot house, captures the floating plankton, and it also captures plastic. And they found small plastic pieces in every single larvicin that they examined from different depths across the water column. Another filter feeder, the red crab, also contained pieces of plastic, every one they caught. They also looked higher up the food chain. In earlier research in the Pacific, they collected creatures called lancet fish, several feet long with huge mouths and lots of saber-sharp teeth. The common name they call them is dragons of the deep. Here is a picture of the lancet fish, the dragon of the deep, and they never come to the surface. But they've looked at over 2,000 lancet fish and found that about 1 in every 3 fish had some kind of plastic in its stomach. And it's really shocking because this fish does not come to the surface. That suggests that the plastic has spread through all the water columns. My point being is a lot of people depend on fish oil for the DHA, but fish do not make DHA at all. What I'm going to explain is that fish swimming, they get the algae, they filter the algae and they consume the algae as they're swimming in their mouths, and they get the DHA from the algae. So right now, they've got algae grown in vats of pure seawater, and what they're doing is they're harvesting now these vats of pure seawater, the algae that they're cultivating, and turning it into supplements. And so you can go to your local health food stores and you can get the veggie caps with the algae, and the body needs about 300 milligrams a day of DHA in order to function optimally with your brain and everything. It's also good for people who have arthritis, inflammation of the arthritis, and a lot of those people that I know that have this, they take a lot of the DHA. Now, if you have flare-ups in your inflammation, you can double your intake of the DHA from 300 to 600 milligrams a day. So my suggestion is, let's not buy the fish oil. Let's not consume the fish. Let's give the oceans a chance to heal and rest. After all, this is your children's future, your grandchildren's future. But the reason I came to you today with this was because of the contaminants and the toxins and the heavy metals. And like I said, they do not test these supplements for any of that. So vote with your checkbook and go more for the algae that's being cultivated and cultured in pure seawater in the vats and being sold. In Winter Haven, we have the Healthy Habits store there, which is a health food store, and they have veggie tabs there, and I'm sure just about in every city there's got to be health food stores where you can go and get this. But anyway, I don't have an exercise to demonstrate this week, but I will next week. I will be in a different setting. There's a lot of construction going on here at this gym, and it just wasn't, I just didn't have any place really that there wasn't construction to demonstrate in very much today. So I'm going to be in a different gym next week. But if you have any questions or you have any suggestions, please email me at stellarmindbody@gmail.com, and don't forget to follow me. There's a button, the submit button or whatever they call that thing down there. Anyway, gee, I think I need some DHA for my brain. Anyway, thank you for viewing, and you have a great Sunday.